All right, welcome back. We've entered into our Discerners hour, but we wanted to just record this first part of this hour where we're going to give discerners advice and resources that they may need. And I feel like this could be a really good tool for others to have. So if you'll go around and introduce yourselves and your diocese, please, first. Father Richard, let's start with you.
Sure. My name is Father Richard McNeillie. I'm from the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston. It's basically the Houston metro area and happens to be Rhonda's hometown and the home of the Astros. So anyway, I've been a priest for 6 years, and quite a few years of that has been in vocations work. And I'm just very happy to be here sharing my love for the priesthood and anything else I have. So.
Great. All right, Father Cesar and Father Larry.
Yes, I'm Father Cesar Martinez, vocational director for the Diocese of Stockton. Our diocese is located in California, right in the center, so the Central Valley, the rural area. It's a lot of agriculture here, and we have about 250,000 Catholics in our diocese. So that's just, and I've been ordained as a priest for 6 years. And as Father Richard said, also most of those have been on vocations as well. So happy to be here with all of you.
Okay. I'm Father Larry Machado. I'm the associate pastor at our cathedral in Stockton, and I'm on the vocations team, so a group of priests that help Father Cesar with vocations in our diocese, and I've been a priest for 2.5 years.
Awesome. All right, Father Gino, you're up.
Hi, Father Gino della Rama from the Archdiocese of Newark in New Jersey. It's a very densely populated archdiocese, even though we're very small in territory, right across the river from Manhattan. I'm the vocation director. I've been doing this for 5 years. Before that, I was in parish ministry for 3 years, and just happy to be helping out.
Great. So first, we would love to just another roundtable. Let's just go in that general direction again. And this is a piece of advice. Each hour during Behind the Collar, we've been asking our priests, different priests, to give advice. Something that has come up multiple times, just FYI, is be not afraid. So I want to put that out there that discerners, look, don't be afraid. Take the first step. Hope I didn't take anybody's piece of advice from you. Okay, so Father Richard, what is a piece of advice you would give to the discerners?
Yeah, so my mantra is don't do this alone. No one discerns alone. No one discerns alone. I just think, unfortunately, it's just part of our male instincts sometimes to be a little independent, and discernment is just not one of those things that you can do by yourself. Really one, right, it's a dialogue with God, but then also the church is called to discern with you. There are other people in your life for a reason that God has put there to help you in this process. So.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Father Cesar.
Yes, with that same idea as well, don't discern alone. Look for a spiritual director that will guide you in the process, and will give you good advice, because sometimes unfortunately, even sometimes from priests, you get bad advice. So I think look for a good spiritual director that can help you to see what God has in store for you, because each of us have a vocation, and again, a vocation is a call from God. So it's just being in front of the Blessed Sacrament and asking Jesus, what are you calling me to? I'm trying to, I love you, I'm trying to do your will. So can you please give me the wisdom to know what you're asking me to do?
Father Larry, I know you gave us a piece of advice earlier, but do you have anything else you want to add, or another piece, or?
Yeah, I mean, the last hour, I mentioned the consistency in prayer. I think that's super important. Just carving out, a little bit of time out each day to hear the voice of God, how God is calling us, how He's speaking to us through those circumstances each day, and where we turn to the Lord and we say, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing. Enlighten my mind so that I can make a good decision, and reveal to me, that call that you have for me from all eternity, and how I'm called to serve you, and ultimately to find you and to serve others, and to find the happiness that I'm longing for. But I think that consistency in prayer, that perseverance in prayer is so important. And as Father Cesar mentioned, having a spiritual director that then we can go to say, well, in prayer, I felt like God was calling me in this direction, or maybe I've noticed I've had these fears or these hangups, or I don't know if I can let go of this. And we take that to a spiritual director, and many times we can be deceived in that process. And so it's important to lay all that out there with our spiritual director and get a little bit of a second opinion and some guidance on how to move forward with that.
And Father Gino, being last, that's hardest, because now you got to figure out, well, now what do you want to say? Maybe yours is going to be totally different. What would you say?
No, clearly the vocation directors that have spoken have already been experiencing everything that, it's like the same thing. It's the same exact message, just in different words. Pray in private, but discern. Do not discern in isolation. All right. Bishop Barron doesn't know you. Father Mike Schmitz doesn't know you. Okay. Like, they're great for objective things, but they don't know you. Right. And you're never going to get to know them. Right. So we are here to walk with you, talk with you, highlight things that maybe you didn't realize with all your online quizzes. Right. And with all of the binge watching on YouTube. Right. If your parish priest doesn't know who you are, and you're only meeting with me because you went down a rabbit hole and watched 1,000 videos, it's great that you're inspired, but let's figure this thing out together. No vocation director is going to hand you an application, because you're expected to be 100% sure. In fact, if you're 100% sure, it's a little weird. We're looking for the unsure guy. We're looking for the guy who's struggling and who's wrestling with it, because that's healthy, right? And so step forward, let's discern together. Nobody's handing you keys to anything. So why not let's figure it all out. We discern together. Does that make sense? Because
it does. And now we all know why we've invited Father Gino to be a part of this. Like, he's going to lay it out there for you in a very different way. And it's beautiful. So thank you so much for that, Father Gino. Okay. So the next question would be, what is a resource for discerners? It could be video, it could be book, it could be podcast that you would recommend to discerners to just help them. It's not going to be, as you said, Father Gino, that's not where they stop, but that could be some inspiration in there, or some instruction in there. So what is that book, video, podcast, or some other resource for them? Father Richard, what do you recommend?
I wonder if this is going to be the same for all of us. So, I mean, usually when somebody is just casually looking, I probably say, like, hey, check out our website, which for us is houstonvocations.com. And I probably would also hand them a copy of To Save 1,000 Souls. I think it's a really good book, a really good summary of how discernment for diocesan priesthood could go about.
Okay, great. Father Cesar.
Yes, a video that I know when I was discerning, a video that really helped me was Fishers of Men. Yeah, wonderful video, about 70 minutes long. But you can easily find it on YouTube. So you just put Fishers of Men. And I think today for me, that's the one that really, I like watching that. And I think it's good for any discerner to use. Every time I watch it, I get something out of it. And I have watched it so many times. So I think that's a good video. And of course, I use the To Save 1,000 Souls. So that would be a wonderful resource.
Just to echo what Father Richard said, To Save 1,000 Souls, written by Father Brett Brannon. I think it's just the most thorough resource out there for diocesan priesthood. So if you're interested in diocesan priesthood, this is, like, I think the go-to book for those who are discerning. It's very thorough. It talks about all kinds of different aspects about discernment and what the priesthood is. And so it has a lot of, just a lot of good information in here. And also there's a bibliography in here that also has resources. So I think this is definitely a good place to start.
All right, Father Gino.
A new one that just came out that I really like, Jacques Philippe's Spiritual Fatherhood. It's awesome. It's small. It's simple, but it's rich. Typical Jacques Philippe And it's I just looked for a copy, but I already gave my last one away. But yeah, it's great.
And I have heard from other vocation directors that I think it's Cardinal Dolan's a priest
For the third millennium.
for the third millennium.
Yes.
Okay, good. Glad. Okay, so I heard that's really good too.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I heard it's very practical as well. Like it's very down to earth, but really good read and easy to get through, but it covers a lot of the priestly ministry. So anyway, just for what that's worth. Okay. So next, I wanted you, depending on where these guys are in the vocation process, I wanted each of you to, what would you say to a discerner, like a next step? This is our last question in this section. What's the next step in the discernment process? Now I've given each of you. Okay, so Father Cesar, what is your advice for the next step to a young person just starting out in this journey?
Yes. So again, the idea that vocation is a call from God. So you have to start, even if it's 15 minutes, but being in front of the Blessed Sacrament and just asking God, what do you want from me? You know, so I think that's important. But also another one, if you are, thinking that God is calling you, and maybe ask yourself, am I going to Mass on Sundays? A basic thing, because maybe you're not going to Mass. And if you're not, maybe start there. Start going to the Eucharist. You can be a priest. If you don't like to go to Mass, then maybe the priesthood is not for you. So and then after you do the basics of Sunday Mass, then I know for me in my last, I discerned for 2 years, but in my last year I started going to Mass every day. So maybe start thinking about, can I go to daily Mass? Maybe you can start with maybe during the week, 1 or 2 days, and then eventually, hopefully, little by little, so that you can start enjoying the Mass. And not enjoying, but yeah, you want to be there, and you want to be fed by Jesus, so that you have the strength to not be afraid and move forward. Also, I will talk to a seminarian, talk to a priest, hear their vocation story. How is it like to be a priest? And again, the importance of the vocation director. As Father Gino said, get to meet them. We want to meet you. This last week I spent like 2 hours with each with two discerners. And they told me their whole story. We get to know them, and for me, it's a very special to get to know their stories and to help them in that process. And then, of course, spiritual director, finding a spiritual director is important. But also the last one I would like to say is also, of course, you have to be in love with Jesus, but you have to be in love with our Blessed Mother. Our Blessed Mother, will intercede for you. So if you don't have that special relationship with our Blessed Mother, I encourage you, because as a priest, you will need that.
Yeah, and I think early on too, it's probably good to look at your friend group. Who's surrounding you on a regular basis? Are they lifting you up? Are they bringing you down? Are they leading you towards heaven or away from heaven? In that sense, that's kind of an early thing too that I think people should look at. Okay, so then Father Gino, you were going to give us the next step for a man who's been discerning for a while on their own. Maybe they've hopefully now they're walking with their priest, like their own priest, even if they haven't gotten in touch with their vocation director. So what's the next step or
Right.
steps?
Not to negate anything that Father Cesar just said, because I agree with everything 150%. But there's also a responsibility, in my opinion, to inform the discernment, right? Inform the discernment with regular, practical, concrete experiences, right? Because oftentimes men want to become priests because of the sacramental aspect of things. They love the most holy Eucharist. They love the thought of giving themselves away in Mass, etc. And the they're taken over by the beauty of the source and the summit of the Christian faith, which is the Most Holy Eucharist. I agree with that. I became a priest because of that, right? But to be clear, there's a lot of stuff in between the source and the summit. There's a lot of stuff in between, right? So most guys, they're so like enraptured by the mass, but they have no concept of parish life. They can't imagine being at the beck and call of people who are in need. They like their privacy. They don't want anything to do with 1,000 different things, and they view it with a mass only mentality, when it's clear it's the source and the summit. There's a lot of stuff in between. If you can't picture yourself being, like we mentioned it early in the beginning of the day, parish life is the front. It is the first call for anybody needing Jesus in a given territory. If you're not trying to be at the front, then maybe parish life is not for you, and that's okay. But the diocesan parish priest wouldn't be for you, because for sure people are going to call you first, and they're going to need you. And mass is the beginning and the end, but there's a lot of stuff in the middle. And maybe that's something you got to pray and think about.
So you think maybe stepping outside of themselves and serving others in a bigger way? I mean, I know you went to missions, like, so mission trips or going on so many service opportunities and making sure that they're comfortable doing that, serving others and giving of themselves and not being just to themselves all the time.
Correct. A parish is an outpost of the church to serve the people that live in it. And every parish is different. Every neighborhood is different. Every town, every city is different. There are different needs. And the parish priest is saying to the church, put me anywhere, place me anywhere. I lay down my life for the church. It doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter if they're old. It doesn't matter if they're young. It doesn't matter if one mass has car seats and strollers everywhere. To be so amenable to bringing Jesus to people, any kind of people, right? And to bring people to Jesus no matter what. And that's a lot to ask for if guys are only thinking about, the mass. And I'm just saying that's number one. But there's a lot of things that surround the life of parish ministry. Inform your discernment. Inform the discernment.
Okay, so Father Richard, now we've got this young man that he's doing all the things Father Cesar and Father Gino said, and now they've come to you. Can you kind of walk us through that once a young man comes to you and the steps of applying to seminary, even though we'll say from the get-go that probably that should be in general look the same, but there may be some little steps that may be different here and there. But let's just not get caught up in that, but just in general, what are the steps?
Sure. So there's an application process, and that's you're right. It does differ from diocese to diocese, but I think a lot of the ingredients are the same. And to remember that applying is part of discerning. Like, this is the real time where the church also looks at your discernment and then puts in her voice. Like, I've never prepared a couple for marriage where somebody said, I am convinced that we're supposed to get married, and like the guy is like, no, we're not. They both agree and go forward into marriage. So in that sense, like, the church and the young man considering priesthood, they both agree when going forward into that vocation. So probably every process is going to have interviews, which we do. Every process, you're going to have to write an autobiography or some kind of story of your life, and let everybody who's on the admissions team know what's your relationship with God like. How do you see yourself, as a priest? Why did you even consider this as your vocation? And so there are just lots of interesting details that get worked out in that autobiography. Beyond that, we always go, I think every diocese in the United States sends somebody to a psychologist for a psychological interview. And I always tell guys, look, you feel crazy coming out of the psychological interview because they show you weird drawings and they ask you to like tell a weird story. And it's got like a, a man holding a knife over a woman, and you're supposed to say something that doesn't sound crazy. So it just, it's part of the process. I'm pretty sure that we don't, by that point, we would know if you're really crazy, but it's just part of the, I guess, the discerning process, just to make sure, right, that everything is in place. So those are usually the ingredients of an application. I'm assuming for, a lot of dioceses, the vocation director really wants to get to know you before you even enter that process. But during that process, you also really get known by the vocation director and the admissions board. And yeah, it's a really, I just want to put out there that it's a grace process. Like, it's part of God's plan for your discernment.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, well, that was all great advice. And I'm so thankful that others will get to hear this and benefit from these words of wisdom that you've given them. So thank you so much for that.